Hello, everybody. My name is Jake Runnels, and you are listening to the Chaos and Order podcast. This is episode number 1 of the series, and today we're going to be talking about who am I, why am I doing this, why am I starting a podcast, what are my goals for this podcast, and what could you expect out of listening to this podcast. And that is what I'm going to get to today. So let's get started.
Angels smoking cigarettes on rooftops in fishnets in the morning with the moon still glowing. And here comes Jesus in an Astro van rolling down the strip again. He's stoned while Jerry plays. He said life ain't ever what it seems. These dreams are more than paper things. It's alright, mama, you're afraid I'll be poor along the way, but I don't want to see those tears again. You know Jesus drives an Astro van. Yes, he does.
Alright, so who am I? I'm not going to spend too much time talking about myself mostly because you guys don't care, really. If anybody's listening to this, I don't think you care. I think you mostly are listening to podcasts because you want entertainment. You want some value out of it. So I'm mostly going to be talking about what am I going to do and how could I provide value. And that is my ultimate goal for this, is to provide value to other people in the form of spoken entertainment. Essentially, I am Jake Runnels. I am currently a college dropout. I dropped out of school this semester. I would call myself an entrepreneur because this year I've also started my own business, dreamdelic.com. But I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it because then it would feel like I'm selling it to you, and I'm not doing this podcast to sell something to you. I'm legitimately just doing this to get better at speaking and trying to provide some sort of service. So I started the website. It's basically just apparel, artwork, t-shirts, stuff like that. It's just stuff that I'm interested in, and I started marketing it, and I've made enough money off of doing that to be able to pay rent, maybe afford some food, but any other profits I get from that, I'm going to go straight back into the business and really kind of keep this project of mine growing. And this year, like I said, I dropped out of school, and that was a really big decision for me. It was a really hard decision. It was something that I've contemplated and agonized over for a very long time. And I finally decided to do it and just start my own business and see where it takes me. And I did it, and I'm having absolutely no real inclination that I would be able to pay rent aside from I'm determined to do this and I'm going to give it everything I got. That's really all I had to go off of. And that and like a few sales in the beginning, that's all I got. But I was like just jumping into this thing hoping I'd be able to pay rent. So far I'm doing that. And I look to make it grow and grow and grow and just get better and better at it. And that's what I want to do with anything that I pursue, is just put my complete and utter attention into it to the point that over time I gamify the process and learn how to do it in such a way where every little action I do, the most efficient ones are the ones that get magnified, and the ones that aren't efficient and are counterproductive die off. That's, I think, what we all kind of aim for to some extent, is maximizing our efficiencies of strengths and minimizing our weaknesses. So I started that website because I felt a real need to escape what I kind of look at, correctly or incorrectly, is the grind of the traditional life plan. And I'm kind of stealing that word from Tim Ferriss and Joe Rogan and a few others that kind of think along these same lines. But the traditional life plan of you go to college, you get your degree, you get your job, and maybe you go back to school and you get another degree, and then you get a job to be able to afford your responsibilities and your expenses, and most importantly, to pay off your debt. You get a mortgage, you get a family, and you're tied down, and you work from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, every single week for the rest of your life. You take a few vacations every couple of years, and then you have enough money to save up to where you can retire in your broken down body and live your life. Maybe not. that's not what every person in the traditional life path goes down, but it's definitely something that it's an image in my mind that scares me, that frightens me, that I don't want to become. And it's not because I was necessarily ever pushed towards that path. My parents are pretty understanding of the direction I'm going in, but it's just something where it's like if I don't think about what I want to do with my life, if I don't start seriously sitting down and thinking, what is it that I want to do? What is it that will make me happy, will make me not just happy, but will give my life meaning in anything that I pursue. And it's not going to school. Going to school feels like I'm numbing myself. I'm filling my consciousness with this banal, just boring drudgery of assignments and classes and all this stuff. And I just didn't like doing it. And I want to do what I want to do. And I guess everybody does. But it's very risky to start doing that. But I've started doing that and I've done pretty well. And I'm grateful for that. So my plan is to never go back to school and to never get a job again. That is my ultimate goal. So the two things I want more than anything else in this life is to never get a real job again, and to never go back to school. Maybe it's stubborn. Maybe, God forbid I have to fall back and do one of those things, and it's entirely possible. You never know what could happen. But as far as what I can control, I'm going to do everything in my power to set my life up so that I live the life that I want and I don't have to do or spend my time just doing the same old thing as everybody else. So that is my primary focus right now. Enough about me and more about why am I doing this and what am I going to be doing with this and what can you expect out of this. So why am I doing this? I'm doing this because mainly, I guess for selfish reasons, mainly because I want to get better at talking. I want to get better at speaking. I want to get better at articulating myself because I feel like it's one of the most powerful things you can have. And I think it's the most fortifying things about you is when you have that capability to speak what you think in a clear, concise, articulate, and coherent manner that comes across to everybody else, in that same way. If you're able to do that, you have a tremendous amount of power. Because one of the things I've learned while doing this online business is that the most important part of it, it's not just you got to have the right product and you got to have the right website. You have to have the right product and you have to present it well. But most importantly, you have to get it in front of people. If you get it in front of enough people who are interested in what you have, somebody's going to buy it. And so it's taught me that you have to be able to present yourself well enough to where if enough people see you, they'll buy it. And so I think it's the same way with speaking. I think it's the same way with anything, is that the most important thing in any endeavor is to get good at it, but you're always trying to fine tune the process. And for our own sake is to, like when you're learning an instrument, you're playing the instrument, you're doing the notes, you're strumming the chords, you're doing all that because you're trying to hone the process into something that has a melody to it, is something that flows, that is kind of a natural rhythm and you could call it articulate, you can call it coherent, concise, whatever. And so in anything we try to pursue, we're trying to beautify the process. We're trying to beautify the thing, the skill, the activity that we're trying to do. And I think that the only way to really do what it is that you want to do, and the only way to really kind of get good at those things that you really want to get good at, is to go all in. And that's just my approach. I don't think should be everybody's approach, but dropping out of school, jumping into this thing is mainly because I want to go all into having my own business. I want to go all into having this podcast. I want to start a blog. These things that I want to go all into and kind of expose myself in such a way to where if people see it, they're either going to like it or they're going to hate it. And if they like it, then I get they give me a review, they like it, they show their friends, and then it kind of gets boosted up. And when I do something or say something that's stupid or dumb or arrogant or whatever, then that gets pushed down. You get a 1-star review, you get people who talk shit. So it's like this naturally evolving thing where you do something right, you get a bump here. You do something wrong, you get a hit here. And over the time, you start to pay attention of where you're getting your bumps and where you're getting your hits. And after a while, you start to mainly maximize the things that are giving you those bumps and minimize those things that are giving you hits. And it's like sculpting. You're sculpting something here, and that's what I'm trying to sculpt is ability to my ability to speak properly and explore ideas. And that's another thing I wanted to go to is that, so what is this podcast going to be about? What am I going to do with it? What could you expect out of listening to this thing? And mostly the podcast that I'd say I'm most inspired by is Joe Rogan. I really like Tim Ferriss's too, and Jordan Peterson is probably one of my favorites as well, probably my second favorite right next to Joe Rogan. They're all very different podcasts, but if I had to pick one that I was aiming towards, it would definitely be Joe Rogan's. So I want to probably have a few solo casts where I just try to explore things myself, just try to really analyze whatever's going on in my mind and try to like project it outward in some clear way. But I also want to, there's some very interesting people that I've met in my life, and I've always kind of stuck around the closest with like the weirdos. Like in school, in like lunches and stuff, I would always be closest to the kids that were kind of they were a little off, they were a little weird, they were really smart, and they had their quirks, but I always found them so interesting because they're, and that could be for, multitude of reasons that I might talk about at a later date. But there's some very interesting, quirky, weird, funny people that I want to talk to that I know of and that I want to talk to on this podcast, really sit down and have a long form conversation with them, smoke some weed, see where our ideas and our minds take each other, and just see how it goes. And that's really what I want to do, is I really want to get better at the art of conversation. And naturally, the conversation is going to exclude like personal life things. You're not going to just be listening to me and my friends talking about, who's doing this, who's doing what. I want it to be based around ideas, to be sitting down and talk to somebody and be like, okay, like what are you doing here? Like, how have you figured out like what ideas are affecting you the most, and not even just ideas, but just what's going on in your life that you feel is helping you, what is hurting you. And it's not all just about like self-optimization. That's not what this is going to be about. Or what I want it to be about. I want it to just be about, as like Joe Rogan says, we're two flying monkeys talking in space. I just like, we're just these monkeys here that we're just kind of, we're conscious of ourselves and we're just trying to figure things out. And I think that it varies from person to person how they interpret the world. And I think that's one of the most fascinating things, is that each and every person you talk to, they feel they have their own perspective on everything, and they have their own perspective because they are their own just center of perception. Everybody is their own center of perception, and naturally they perceive the world slightly different because everybody's looking at it from a different standpoint. And I think that's fascinating, and I would really like to talk to some people about the way they just I don't know, it doesn't even have to be about anything specific. It's really just mainly talking about life. And I think that generally the conversation in the podcast and the subjects of the podcast are generally going to probably fall along the lines of the things that I'm interested in, because I'm the host of the podcast, and I don't want to direct or control the conversation, but the people I pick to talk to, and when I do a solo cast, like the things I'm going to talk about are going to be the things that interest me. And so if you haven't gotten it already, I guess I'll just talk about what interests me, and that might give another like kind of insight as to where this podcast will go. So I think I'm mostly interested in I'm interested in a lot of different shit. I love learning about a lot of different shit. I think mostly I would describe my interest as I am totally interested in optimizing what optimizes your life mentally, physically, spiritually. What is the best way to do it? Maybe everyone is interested in that, into that to some extent, but to me, it's like I want to learn what is the best way to orient myself. What practices will get me the furthest? What practices will give me the clearest head and optimize my life in the best way possible? And just things that are interesting. I like learning about religion, about mythology, and about psychology, and all this stuff. I think when it comes to learning, what do I like reading about? Most importantly, is I like reading about psychology. I like reading about, different, just philosophy, different things like that. Those are probably my primary interests. Most of my thinking kind of follows the same line of people like Joe Rogan for one, although like his thinking is so like broad, but also I've been heavily influenced by Jordan Peterson recently. Most probably I've been heavily influenced by him more than anybody recently. And a few other speakers that have influenced me in the past. It's primarily speakers, which is probably why I'm doing this. But Terrence McKenna, Alan Watts, Joseph Campbell, Aldous Huxley, like all these people, not all of them are speakers, some of them are writers, but those are the people that have influenced me the most. And they normally, if you know Terrence McKenna, Alan Watts, and hopefully you do if you're listening to this podcast, that's the niche I kind of want to go after. But if you know those names, then you know that there's this very interesting subject matter that is very psychedelic in nature. Psychedelics are another topic that I'll probably discuss a lot because taking them myself, they have radically changed my life and for the better. And the experience in the psychedelic realm is completely indescribable. But one time I heard Terrence McKenna say that we talk about while these experiences are impossible to fully articulate and explain to somebody else, as we continue to try to talk about them and speak about them, we come up with better and better metaphors for the experience. And those metaphors naturally evolve to the top of our language. And so I think I want to talk about psychedelics because I feel like I want to be a part of that discussion of I want to be a part of the discussion of trying to make a metaphor to kind of describe this thing, even though it's not something that you can put in this box, but it is something where you gain a perspective that just isn't available in everyday life. So psychedelics are another big one. I kind of have a philosophy that the things that you're scared of doing are the things that you most need to do. That's probably why I'm doing this podcast. Not saying I'm scared of this podcast, but it's something that it makes me very self-conscious. And I believe that the things that you fear doing are things that you most need to do. I feel that the best way to live, or the best way to not even live life, but the best way to set up my day is to spend my time doing things that I like doing. And generally, that is things that involve some sort of creativity or physical activity. I have started learning guitar recently. I haven't done it as much lately as I need to, but it's a fascinating process, and it's euphoric when you're doing something and it clicks and it sounds right. It's like, wow, it's euphoric. And so I'm learning guitar, and I love music. If anyone out there is a fan of Jimi Hendrix or 60s rock just in general, then we would be great friends. But so guitar, I love jujitsu. Jujitsu is another thing that has really completely radically changed my life for the better. It's something where I am, every time I do jujitsu, I feel better than I did going in, which is a rare thing. It's like it has 100% success rate as far as making me just feel good, and it also has just this incredible quality. Like when you're doing jujitsu and on the mat, that's one thing, but I've done like 2 competitions so far, and the one thing about competitions is that the competition is the art of dealing with your anxiety. You are just completely overwhelmed with the consequences of what could happen right before a competition, of what, you're going to fight somebody. What's going to happen in the fight? What are they going to do? You just let your mind run amok, and your aim while you're preparing is to clear your mind and to focus on what's right ahead of you. It's a very nerve-wracking feeling, but it's one of those things where it's so important. I think it's so important to compete at things and to try to put yourself in a situation, because when you're on the mat and you're just doing jujitsu at your local gym, you might you're rolling with some dude, but mostly it's just you and that dude there, and it's a really cool experience. But when you're competing, you're there with another competitor, and your whole, like, anybody else your gym is watching, random people are watching, your girlfriend, your mom, whoever, they might be watching, and so that is just, you're taking your skill, whatever you have, whatever you've learned, whatever you've tried to make a part of yourself, and you're putting it out there. You're putting it out there on the line in front of everybody, and you're letting it rest where it falls. And that's why I want to do this, and that's why I want to do more entrepreneurial pursuits, is because I want to put my effort totally and utterly into something, and to just let the pieces fall where they may. If I do good in this area, then let the pieces fall on they may. If I do bad, let it happen there as well. But over time, I feel like I'm going to get better and better at this, and I think that it's really something that I need to do. And I think that anytime there's something in life where you feel you need to do it, and it really is nagging at you, not just on like oh, I really need to complete this task way, but oh, I need to do this now, otherwise I will never get started and I'll always regret it. And this is one of those things where I want to start this now, otherwise I won't ever start it, and then I'll always regret it. And I think that hopefully in this journey of starting this podcast, other people can listen and they can take things away from it, and they'll see, or they'll hear things that really make them think about something in one way, or really just radically change a perspective that they had on something. And that's primarily, it's not my aim. It's not what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to change people's opinions or trying to inspire people or trying to do this. I'm mostly doing this because I want to see what I'm capable of giving. I want to see if I'm capable of providing something to the world that comes out in such a way that is clear and has a rhythm to it enough that people find it entertaining. And so that's the primary aim of this. So I think that is a good point to conclude this on. I would like to continue to do this for once a week and kind of rack these up, see where they go. But yeah, thank you for listening, and peace out. Thank you.
Puts my name upon his guest list. Says, son, you're famous in heaven. Maybe you're famous in heaven. And maybe there is no heaven. And maybe we're all alone together now. And I don't want to see those tears again. Jesus drives an Astro van. Again, Jesus drives an Astro van.
Before I go, you guys, big shout out to Mount Joy for letting me use their song Astro Van. I hit them up on their email, and they hit me back saying I could use their song, and it's an amazing song. I hope you guys like it, and thank you guys so much. Peace out.